Today is 22 December 2022. We will will have the presentation of issues and arguments to the judicial system on United Kingdom, considering efforts made before, the presentation to the judicial system in United States. Love is in the air. Then we will have that the situation is quite simple, is quite clear. If we have systematic mistakes committed and always by the same group, the same peers, having variance as behavior and victimizing different persons in different levels and areas, the thing is quite simple to get. First thing we will have in mind, if it's on my environment regular that I consider a square, circles are the criminal activity. The increasement of criminal activity will violate little by little the limits of your square, hurting the structure as a square until got something so huge and bizarre that you probably will feel at least uncomfortable with this. It's an aggression. The case goes, and it's going, the first moment as accusation about corruption that allows the entrance on your square, the criminal association that take places on your square, the transnational organized crime that interchange things from other circles to your square, goes as white-collar crime, tax evasion, not only by avoiding payment that sometimes is a right if the abuse is made by the misuse of state power, but equally by financial transference from the public investment system supported and based on taxation. The financial evasion and in general by peers receiving this kind of advantage, it's the liquidity money cure with structural gaps. And then we have piracy of products, material assets, and others affecting equally the investment saving curve. We will check equally that the second accusation puts the corruption as something functional at departments and offices at the company, the coalition of both as association with concurrent interests to take advantage, keep the scams, or have new entrants by hiring process and contracts always made by specific chairs. In general, the transference is always signed on budget with chairs at the top. This kind of thing as corruption in a functional level is always organized crime because goes on institution, on organograms, and violates once in a while rights and guarantees, including the right to charge, the right to pay properly your tax, the right to the guarantees of discredit, and goes equally as industrial crime by economic espionage, sabotage, and economic thievery, I would say, taking advantage and steal intellectual assets, industrial secret, core business of activities. We observe that the thought based on freedom and the creation is the angle stone of the regular business, regular activity as continued plan, and profitable prospect of possibilities at the present based on the past, considering the future that you would like or desire to achieve. When you shut the possibilities to express your thoughts by something totally unfair, of course that you are probably against the law. We had the third accusation, that is basically the crimes and objects at the International Criminal Court. Violation of civil rights and crimes against mankind. We will observe that the increasement of the criminal activity hurting your square in an unfair way or sometimes putting the humiliation of your department, institution, and officers will commit crimes in a very first moment against the person, and in a second moment against the fields projected from this person, which can be the credit or an effort, an intellectual asset, until finally got down the interest on it. Since the interest at the image projected or spectral field projected from this person has equally the same quality as B against the crimes and the aggression suffered. We will observe that I think that's not necessary have a group of presentation, but only one, by everything made down here. In the period of COVID-19, we had a conversation saying that the chair number one in a specific area in Asia has dignity and very concerned with their nationals and the people there, but it's a closed area and we had a lot of problems at the period. And if your global system had kind of the information about something, even by their silence or the closed environment, you can achieve the interest at that time, which was having got in touch with the problems at the covariancy by the complementary on Venn diagram a relation. We will check that the gap at that moment as information, not only by this closed area, but considering other, goes like this as affecting the squares as government, the corporative area, and the state by the gaps on it with the don't having the possibility to access the information that you need or something like this, and will of course be presented not in the very first moment, but little by the storage and the continuity of this process, the intention, premises, and arguments of conformance. In general, the intention is guided. The first premise is application of the law not properly applied, considering theories on Italy, and the guarantees for sure not observed. We will observe that the behavior goes not only at this area but in all areas. Can be the medical statement that creates a disease or invents something or have the hoax as cure. It's a fraud. If you take advantage, it's white collar crime. You will observe that this kind of thing sets the gap at debt-credit relation, the cross-cut supply and demand, and the investment saving curve and liquidity money curve. And if this kind of thing got in a situation so huge and bizarre, we will have the aggression against your private finances and corporate finances until you have the finances of your conjunto. And you will be like some areas that has problem to do the transparency and the accountability. And we observe that your areas have a huge problem to do the application of the law against major offenders. But this can be solved considering that the state power do not belong to a chair, to a specific person, but to the state. If all chairs are corrupted, anyone with legitimacy will apply. If the entire global system, a judicial system, globally speaking, is corrupted, and for instance, you have an international organism, organization, or institution totally able and in conformance with rules of accreditation and standard patterns against risk, of course, that will apply this, at least offering all conditions to apply, and the element as judge or something will only have the declaration. It's the idea of the machine learning. The machine will do the application by codified values, considering that the gap in the very first moment is the premise, corrosive, negative one. Can go at the Republican and Democrats, the debit and credit, and the application of the law against the crime. We will always be observed like this, associated with the underground and having the impact on your domestic security system, and you have the global system as defense and security threats we all. The regression is quite simple. We will observe that the transference from the regular area to the underground goes by an interface that will put the element as attraction at the regular area to have these variables at the underground. Can be a star, can be a student, an academic, or a family member, whatever. We could observe that now having our regression, if we transfer all illicit money considering the codified values as the corruption on a regular area, evidencing the criminal purpose, and looping the activity based on criminal purpose, as we could observe on FIFA and other global events, considering sometimes shows made by artists. We will observe that the illicit money will be something that you have two needs. First one, the modified data, few players acting on it. The second one is the insertion and the physiological phase at the laundry scheme. If we transfer all illicit money and resources to UK transfer to China from India, we set a circuit here, and then we work this circuit on present time. Because indeed we act like this. We transfer things from money to India, from India to China, and China had the reply of something. And we will now considering something quite simple together. The first thing we will observe that if I have my situation here as my environment has failures in a very first moment as a linear thing, and this failure got projected to the top, for instance, handmade in the budget, setting arguments of fail beyond the limits of my situation here. Indeed, I will observe that is circling my environment. The first thing we will have on mind. Now we will have a break and have the second part.